start. Welcome. And you will have an hour for the lecture plus the Q&A session.
Cool. Okay, so hi everyone. Thanks for coming here, even this last day of the conference. And I'm Chris. I hope you will find something interesting in this speech. Okay. I don't. Technical issue. Maybe I press something. Okay, but I can start because. So I hope you will find something interesting in this speech and you'll be able to use it in your own project. And today, this is a result of the project called Animation Excellence, co-funded by European Union. I have to. Animation is very close to my heart, and also rigging and deformation. So today I will talk about control rig, how to improve the deformation. Maybe on laptop. Okay, so we don't have the presentation. Okay, I have it on my laptop, and when it works, so we switch to the projector. But I have some videos, and but okay. Anyway, yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, cool. Yeah. Oh, it's already turning on, so maybe. Yeah. Woo! Okay, my notes. Yeah, I agree. Okay, please take a photo of this European Union stuff. Yeah. Thanks. Okay, so nowadays games become more and more realistic. We have better sounds, better graphic, better special effects. Yeah. But there is also place for improvement. I'm talking about character deformation. Comes from body animation. Yeah. And what? Yeah, because we have some close up on body deformation. Everything may happen in our game. Okay, next one. But before we dive into it, let's introduce myself properly. My name is Krzysiek Jedrzejek. I am senior character TD, also called rigger, at CD Projekt RED. From 6 years of my journey in that company, I worked for one project, Cyberpunk 2077. And so I've been there almost from the beginning of the production of that game. So I had the opportunity to develop some game feature, like body rig with cool deformation, facial rig, and create a automatic lip sync animation in 10 languages. Some generator for that. And CD Projekt RED is my first game company. Previously, I worked on movies and cinematics and commercials. So in that scenario, rigs can be slow. Riggers can do whatever they want. They use whatever the techniques they use just to achieve the best result. So they can use some heavy technique like blend shape or blend shape morphs or even massive simulation. Yeah. All in all, it will go to the cache. It will be cache, and after that render machine, and one frame may take minutes or even hours, and it doesn't matter basically. But in games, it's totally different. Everything needs to run as fast as possible. It needs to be runtime. So in that case, we need to deal with some limitation like joint limits, or we can use only simple technique, simple but fast technique. Yeah, but all in all, I am very happy from the result. I'm proud of it. Okay, currently I am working on EP1 for Cyberpunk called Phantom Liberty, but soon I will jump to next game from Witcher universe called, for now it's called Polaris, but it's temporary. Of course, none of that would be possible without a great team. So huge kudos for my mates from rigging department and Animatos programmer. So thanks. Yeah, you may imagine that it's very hard. You have to know the hard math and all this stuff, but actually not so true. I will try to explain very clearly that everybody would understand what's going on. But trust me, the math is fast and simple. Yeah, and these rules are so universal that can be easily implemented in whole 3D packages or game engines. And we have some video from Cyberpunk.
Vicky, spry as ever, you old ripper. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, V. Oh, wow. What do I owe the pleasure today?
Please focus
Last
on
gig,
deformation.
had to jack into a client's neuro socket. Think I might have gotten spiked.
Experiencing migraines, nausea, hypersensitivity.
our neck, the head will follow this movement, yeah? Or when we raise our clavicle, the hands also will follow. So there, as a child, the parent-child hierarchy, yeah? Okay, so we have a model and the skeleton. We need to somehow connect it to each other. So it's called skinning, and we assign some part of the body to some joint, to some specific joint. And if you are rigging some organic model, and most of the times we do, we need to assign one vertex for many joints. In games, it's up to 8 in general. Yeah, and it's called weight maps, or painting the weight maps. So I have some example of it. Here we can see that if the area is more red, it means that it has big influence on that specific joint. Yeah. And some few examples, more examples. Helper shapes. So it's also it's called controls. So this is the red, blue, and yellow shapes. It should help the animator to pick some part of the body. They don't need to look at inside it to pick a joint. And the controls also have some logic sometimes in it. For example, switching between AFK and IK, inverse kinematic and forward kinematic. And what is it? On forward kinematic, we usually just to rotate joints, bones, from top to the bottom of the hierarchy. So for example, we want to have a fist, we just rotate each fingers, and we have it. Or we want to grab something, a pilot, yeah, and so we need to rotate the arm, forearm, animator needs to rotate it. And when he's happy, yeah, but we have this pose, yeah. But let's imagine some situation when we are driving by bus, and the whole bus, and we are standing inside it, and holding the handrail. So the whole bus, for example, turns, yeah, and it's moving. And for example, this is the handrail. So when he turns left, the handrail moves a little bit. So animator needs to fix it. So do the rotation and catch it. Next frame, the same situation. Next frame, the same situation. And it happens through the whole animation. So it's quite ridiculous and boring. And that's why inverse kinematic was invited to fix that issue. So in that scenario, we can create an IK handle for these two joints, two bones. And thanks that we have some control or IK handle, and we can move it, not rotate. Thanks that the computer will do the calculation for us automatically. So we can fix the position on the handrail, and when the handrail is moved, hand will be follow, yeah? And we can move the handrail, we can move the chest, yeah? And everything works automatically for free. And usually, rigs has this opportunity to switch between FK and IK on each limbs, and animator can do that wherever they want, even during the animation. Level of details. This is important in games because every microsecond counts. Yeah? So we need to do as less calculation as possible to achieve some problem. Here we have Judy in our internal game engine, RED engine, and you can notice that in each, maybe I'll move a bit. In each LODs, we have different meshes. So we have less and less density, so it's less and less memory to take. But what is also even important for us, that the skeleton also switch. On LOD0, we have everything, yeah? This is the highest quality. And we, for example, we have better elbow, also on the inside is better. We basically, we have everything, what you can get. And we have all these joints I will talk about later, this fixes joints. But on LD1, we have only base skeleton. And I can also tell you that, for example, in LOD0, on the face, there is 250 joints, and then on LOD1, there is something like 20-something. On LOD2, we have only head joint, so no fascial at all. Yeah, and proxy is from far, far, far away. We shouldn't see it at all in that case. Okay, and finally we have constraints. Constraints is the core of our presentation. Constraints or custom nodes. In Maya, you can also call it. Okay, so let's fix our first problem. In human hand, we have two bones, radius and ulna. Yeah, and that's why we are able to twist it so much. Look carefully during the twist, it spread all over the forearm. So if we want to have the same in our game, so we can add some extra joints. Yeah, and here. Yeah, we need to add 3 more joints to have this for whole forearm. Yeah, and when we add it, we can calculate the difference in the rotation between elbow and wrist and distributed it between the extra joints with different values. So on the wrist, we have 100% of twist, 50 and 20. But okay, so how to calculate it? And here's our first constraint. I will show this all constraint with this simplified scene with boxes. So we just measure the rotation, the difference in the rotation only on one axis, X in that case, and distribute it to the red boxes. Yeah. So you can notice that when I rotate in different axes than X, it do nothing basically, or like here. Yeah. Only X. So this is what we got before without this constraint. And when we add it, we have something like that. And it's better. Okay, that was easy. And another is video with how the whole wrist moves. Yeah. So basically it behaves like in normal life. Yeah, an example in the game. Actually, we have a lot of close-up in the cutscene, so it was quite important. Second problem is elbow. It might be, you think it could be easy because elbow can bend only in one direction. But actually there are a few places we need to fix it, so it will be more complex. So you can notice that it deforming not so good. But when we have such a simple rig, riggers has 2 options to fix it. First of all, they can skin it quite smoothly, this area. But in that case, when we bend our arm, we would lose this volume here. Another case is to skin it quite hardly. So this part goes to this joint 100%, and this goes to this. So in that scenario, we notice the penetration of that mesh almost immediately. Yeah. So the best situation would be something in between. Yeah. But we also need to add some extra joints to achieve it. So we added 5 of them. 2 are on the inside part of the elbow, 1 is on the outside, and this is for this sharp shape. Yeah, and 2 for bicep and tricep. Yeah. And here's the example of, this is a working example. And you can notice that these extra joints, these three, are rotating in between exactly of this angle. Yeah. And how we achieve it? We use constraint. So we use orient constraint. Orient constraint is weighted sum of rotation. So we take the rotation from these two cones and take a part of it and assign it to the red one. So in our case, it is exactly in the middle. And this is some more advanced tip. But there is a trap, because if you are in the range from 0 to 359, everything works great. But if we cross it, you can notice that the red one flips. So we need to be careful that we have to keep in mind that we need to be in range. But hopefully on elbow, it's not a problem. There is an example of our hand with cones. So the blue one is just parented to the bones, and the red one is rotated exactly in the middle. And the same as joints. Yeah, so this is the constraint. And this is some quick example of how it works with or when the constraint is on, off. So it does pretty nice job. Okay. And when we bend our elbow and the muscle collide with each other, to not lose the volume, the forearm is wider because the muscle collapse. Yeah? And you want to achieve the same result. Yeah? But we don't have a budget for the real collision, so we need to simulate it. And that's why we put two joints inside, and it needs to move forward to have this collision. And here's our next constraint, bounce constraint. Programmers say this is the weirdest member of the family. But it's quite easy. We just calculate the position of the blue boxes, but we calculate only one axis. So we are able to determine on which side we are. If we are on positive values or negative values. Yeah? And assign it to the something. In that case, translate y of red box. Yeah. The setup on our arm. And you can please notice how the red box moves forward when we bend the arm. And thanks that we don't lose this volume here. Yeah? So it's quite heavy place. Yeah? And if you are in the rest pose, in the A pose, the blue boxes are overlapping to each other. So the constraint does completely nothing. And when we straight our arm, it also does nothing. So we can determine the size. But when it's bending, it moves forward. And here, look at the blue boxes. One of them is parented to the arm, but second one, it behaves a little bit strange. It's in the average position of view joints. I will talk to you later. Because there's another constraint to do it. Point constraint. And point constraint is very easy. It takes the position from 2 objects or 3 objects and make it average in assigning to the red box. So red box is always in the middle. And this is our blue box, and it's the master of this blue box is 3 joints. So it's shoulder, elbow, and one of the twist joint. And the second one is hardly parented. Not yet. And we are finished the elbow, this inside area. 3 joint left, but this outside and bicep and tricep is just a bounce constraint with some different values. So we use exactly the same setup for rest of them. Actually, in final rig, we use many extra joints also for legs, for butt, for each fingers and wrist. Yeah? And it's all the same setup. Some bounce constraint with some sometimes point constraint or sometimes just a parent to some joints. Yeah, and bicep. But in bicep, there's also bounce constraint used to move it a little bit, but it also rotates a little. Yeah, to achieve this rotation, we use aim constraint, also called look at constraint. So it means that the blue box is the target, and the red is always aiming on it. So we can put whenever we want the blue box, red one is aiming on it. But aiming is only on 2 axes, and the green is for the 3rd axis. We can twist it. So there's also some trap. When we can put the green and the blue in the same place, because in that case there will be some flip and mat fails. So always be into some kind of triangle. It can be wide, it can be narrow, but it can be line. Yeah, and this is how it works. The rotation of the bicep joint is very slightly. It rotates a little, but you can feel the difference in the deformation. Up vector is just parented to the shoulder, shoulder, and blue box is parented to the wrist, elbow. Yeah. And this is a final result. And you can notice that there is quite a big difference, especially here, when we can simulate the collision. All in all, it's really, really nice. Yeah. Also, we have less round elbow, and biceps is moving a little. An example from the game. So basically, everything works exactly the same in the game. Yeah. So like I said, every extra muscle was used the same setup. But for shoulder, there is different scenario. We need to develop another constraint, and it is spline constraint. Basically, it's just a quadratic basic curve. And the blue boxes are the controls of that basic curve, and red boxes are on this curve. And then you can slide with it. And you may wonder why the shoulder is so hard. Yeah? Basically, because it has huge range of motion. We can do a lot of stuff with it. And also there are big muscles connected to the shoulder. Also chest, and there is also scapula joint. Yeah, and all of that, it's hard to have a good shape in all these shapes, all these poses. This is a simplified example how I use this constraint. Because this is only one. Yeah, to this what we got before, I added only one spline constraint, and you can see that the result is much better. So the first blue box is parented to the clavicle, and second and third is parented to the shoulder joint. And inside the red boxes, there are fixing joints. And please carefully look at the middle blue box. Yeah, it's moving. When we are on the A pose is quite far away from mesh. But when we raise our hand, it's very close to it. And this is constraint, but we know it, it's bounce constraint. He calculates how high is our hand and move the box. But this is only one spline constraint. Okay. This is the difference, especially here. Yeah, you can notice that it fixes a lot. Yeah, and in our final week we use several spline constraint. You can notice that we have 3 on the chest to connect with shoulder. Also on the shoulder we have 3 of them, and 1 on the back for scapula. And this is the result. You know, the whole setup works like that. You can notice these poses are quite hard to achieve for rigging, but please note that everything works so organic. Yeah, it's connected to each other, so the whole area moves with hands, also from the back. Yeah, I'm very proud of it. Really. The same animation, but for a geek like me to see how the setup works. But you can notice also that there's a lot of joints to do it. And it took a lot of time to do it, but the result is worth it. And this is one of the famous shots from Johnny Silverhand. And this is very, very hard pose. It can be stress test for week because all of this constraint is working here. Yeah, the wrist is twist, bend elbow, and also, of course, shoulders. And it looks awesome, this pose. Yeah, but what about engine? After the rigging department finished the job, we came to programmers and they need to code all this constraint in the engine. And after that, we recreate all of these nodes, transform, blah, blah, constraints into game engine. And this is part of the left bicep, you can see. But what was the hardest stuff was that in engine, everything is in the order. So there is one input and one output from each joint. So when we pick some node, we have to make sure that we calculate before everything we have to achieve it, to calculate this current node. But in Maya, it's a little bit different. In Maya, as you can see, we have many outputs, many inputs, and sometimes even the connections go back. And it maybe looks like a mess, but there is logic behind it. But thanks that riggers don't have to think about, we just connect next nodes and everything works. You don't have to think about it, this order. And it's easier to research for research and development purpose. And here you can notice that Maya sometimes calculate the same node few times. Yeah, and I think this is one of the reasons why deformation in Maya is slower than in the engine. Here is an example of point constraint in engine. And there is switching of loads, and you can notice that when there is a load is 0, the elbow fix, the shoulder also looks different. Yeah, And on LOD0, we can see these spheres. Yeah. But also mesh change, especially you can see on the hair. And also the hair simulation are only on the LOD0. And much more stuff. Yeah. So there are 6 or main characters of the speech. The 3 above are built-in in Maya, so everybody can use it. And 3 on the bottom is our custom nodes. But the math behind it is very, very simple. Just to calculate the distance between 2 objects on bounce constraint in one axis, and on twist, this is the difference of the rotation on one axis. Yeah, and distributed to the other boxes. And spline is just a basic curve, which is very easy, and you can find it on the internet, the formula. Yeah, I am Maya user, so this is I know Maya, and this is the other constraint, but like parent and scale, but we don't use it at all. Motion path is basically the same as spline constraint, but it's heavier for deformation, for calculation, because it's a lot of stuff. Yeah, and we hire, so please visit our page if you are looking for a job, and you can write to me through the mail or LinkedIn. Yeah, I have no idea what time is it.
Yeah, we still have like 19
Yeah.
minutes. Yeah.
Oh, whoa, a lot. Oh, it was fast. So
Yeah. thanks
QA,
a lot.
if you have some questions, please.
Yeah. How long does it take for you to work from the proxy to LOD0 for that character that you showed us,
Actually,
for example?
it works in different ways. So we have a LOD0, and then when you have it, after that there is other LODs.
Okay. Thanks.
So the proxy was it's made automatically, but it looks like crap.
Okay. Any questions from the audience? Yeah.
Like when you are starting to learn the animation, is it better to make your own simple rig or use some plugins like Advanced Skeleton for Maya or Rigify in Blender?
It depends what you want to achieve. If you want to be an animator, for sure use some already done rigs or some already done characters. But if you want to be a rigger, so you can check how some other people does the job, but you need to do manually, joint by joint, everything.
Okay, and does the animator also need to know the stuff that rigger works with? How much?
It's also a tricky question, because in CD Projekt, actually, I didn't know that before I go to game industry. CD Projekt is one of the not so many companies which have rigging department. Other companies has the animators has to do this job. Yeah, and for me, it's some crazy idea, but I know maybe they want to save some money. But this is not a job for animator, because for them it's boring, and if they want to do some custom stuff, they can't because they don't have to. Yeah. So.
Okay. Thank you.
So riggers are important in game industry.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not so well in English, but I have one question. You have some control curves for these bones or not? Because I doesn't see the project with the controls.
Okay, I will show it is. I thought about it when we talk about rig. So many slides. Oh, here. Yeah. Controls are the red, blue, and the yellow.
And why doesn't make the controller like a path curves? Because normally, if I do some rigs and I remember the workflow from a Pixar or DreamWorks, they do the control pads around the bones. You know
Yeah,
this?
so we have the same. Yeah, this is control for the rig. We have control for
So
the...
small, yeah?
Because the control was made when the character is naked. But when we wear the clothes, yeah, it might look like small. But if because the animator also animate the naked person.
But normally by the movies, the controllers are so big and huge that every one controller can be seen in a scene. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to just place this naked person here.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe that's why. But animators do not complain about it, about the size of the controls. Yeah, but we can just make it bigger. It doesn't matter. Yeah, just for animator to pick it easily. Yeah.
And it was well for animators also.
Yeah. This is our final rig.
Okay.
And if you are here, you can also notice that about this extra joint on legs and over the bodies. Yeah, so we have it.
And it is enough for them. For the animator,
like I said, they don't complain if they
Okay.
if they want. Okay, we have some main characters which are. Okay, once again, we have some body types. Usually, this is main average, and all animation from main average goes from the one rig. Yeah, but also we have some main characters like Jackie or Victor Vector, and for from that kind of characters. It has clothes. They have some extra size especially for them, and in that scenario, they have special rigs for them, and and they have some different controls for different sizes. The rig was exactly the same. Yeah, but you think the control is so small because of the clothes on it. Okay, but they would ask us, and yeah, we make it bigger if they want. It doesn't matter. You can also notice that the control is also the mesh, not only the curve, but it's filled with mesh. It's transparent, but thanks that we don't, the animator don't have to click exactly on the line, but we can click inside the control, and we pick it. So then it's easy for them.
Okay, I see no more questions, I guess. So thanks a lot once again.
Thank you.
Very nice talk, really.
Thank you.